We're live. All right. Ryan, Justin, and Chris, thank you guys for taking some time and chatting about probably the Super Bowl, the biggest event in all of card collecting, and especially this year because we didn't have one last year. So we're talking about the National 2021. We're in Chicago. So really quickly before we get started, I think each person, excluding myself, brings something really unique in their perspectives for the National this year. I'm a newbie. I'm getting schooled, and I couldn't be more excited to get schooled by these guys on the National. So we'll just kind of go around. So we've got Ryan, Card Collector 2. And Ryan, I don't remember how many years you've gone to National. I know you've been there a lot, like a number of years. How many years have you been there as a participant?
I went to the last 10. So I was in 2009 through 2019. I went to every single one.
Awesome. And always going there as kind of as a general participant, even though you do own a card shop now, which is really exciting.
Yeah, this will actually be the first year we get to set up. So I'll have a booth this year. So every other year has been full participant, but this year will be the first year we're actually set up.
Exciting.
Yeah, oh yeah. Can't wait.
Awesome. All right. And Justin, so I know you've done some stuff with Josh Cardboard Chronicles doing similar kind of content. To kind of get people prepped, and you've gone a number of years and set up as a dealer. I don't know how many years you've done that consecutively.
Yeah, so this will be the first setup I had was, I think, Baltimore in 2012. So this will be my 9th year setting up in some capacity as a dealer. So yeah, it's always something, and this year it's going to be something even bigger, which seems impossible, but that's how it works. So.
Absolutely. It's going to be exciting for sure. And Chris, I know you, like me, this is going to be your first National, but you are, I think you grew up in the Chicago area and you're kind of, a local guy. So you definitely bring some of that local flavor, and you can tell us some of the do's and don'ts, but also you've been to some of the most recent big, with a national audience with the Dell show and the Dallas show. So I think that you've got some of that recent flavor of big shows.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for having me on, buddy.
Awesome. All right. Well, so let's jump right in and get into some of the, the nitty gritty. If you've seen any of the content that these three gents have put out in the last, couple of years, you probably have a little bit of a precursor. But Justin, would you start us off for a first timer like myself and Chris? What are some of the, top tips that we need to know?
Yeah. Okay. So I tried when I started preparing this, they're just, the mind runs in so many different directions because it's so big. Like, I know I went to the show in the Dells. I unfortunately not had a chance to get to Dallas or a Miami show. But I guarantee you, this happens to me every single time I set foot in the exhibition room. Every morning, first thing, like, I am always overwhelmed. I am always intimidated by just how big it is from the sheer scope in general, from like the huge exhibition booths that like Panini and Upper Deck will have set up, the number of the dealer booths, the TriStar autograph set up in the back. It's like my little booth is tucked in the opposite corner of the exhibition hall. So like I'm going to have to walk many steps to get to where I need to be. And it's always kind of oh my God, this is no joke. This is huge. So the gut reaction that you're going to have first day, the second day, and probably every day is, this is nuts. So just kind of prepare yourself for that, but know that, hour 2 is better than hour 1, hour 4 is better than hour 2, day 2 is better than day 1. You'll get used to it, but it will definitely be a shock to the system to see how big this thing really is. I would say the second thing, and I'll get into some of the specifics of what to start preparing, but start preparing now. Do not think that you can go to the National and do everything that you want to do like the night before in your hotel room, or like in a few hours before going over to the exhibition hall. You cannot do it. To have the best possible show experience, you need to start going through some things and making some decisions now, organizing things, getting things lined up, whatever you do. but that process needs to start happening now. Like we're only 4 weeks away, 5 weeks away. So like it's very real. We didn't think it would be real for a long time, but it's finally here. So to that point, in terms of the preparation, kind of going through some notes and just best practices, if you will, from prior years. I tried to bucket it into 3 different categories in terms of like what to bring. So you've got your cards, you've got your cash, and then you've got everything else. From the card perspective, I think that oftentimes the card side of it is overlooked, which kind of sounds crazy. But if you've never been before and you're like, I'm just gonna throw like a 2-row in my bag of whatever I've got, whatever I want to take, and I'll take that with me and we'll see where I get. Well, you need to think about with a little more of a critical eye about what you want to bring. Like if you bring cards, PC, trade bait, everything in between, people are going to want to buy those cards as soon as they see them. Mm-hmm. So if you want to bring a card as PC can possibly get, that's cool, because part of the fun of the National is meeting people you've only met online, like showing off player collections, set collections, whatever. And just being able to do that in person and share those cards. I mean, that's why we do this. We love showing the stuff off. But at the same time, if you have those PC cards like intermingled with trade bait in a box that you take to a dealer, the dealer's going to want to buy all of it, some of it, part of it. So you're going to have to come to the realization pretty quickly of like, oh no, like what do I do here? Do I throw out a price? Do I try and pull them back? Say no, these are personal collection, whatever. So a good rule of thumb that Josh kind of came up with was just to almost bring 2 separate boxes or have 2 separate containers. Have a PC container and have a trade container. And the trade container is like if you go to a booth, that's what you show the dealer of like, this is what I have available. And that way you kind of save yourself some of the headache and the hassle and the stress of having to kind of like backtrack, if you will. If a dealer starts asking about like, what kind of prices do you have on all this stuff that you really don't want to move? Because again, I can't tell you how many times like I've brought stuff on my own or priced stuff that I like more than others. And somebody's like, how much do you want for this? And I hefty price, and then 2 minutes later it's gone. Yep. So that's what makes this a lot of fun, but it can also make it very, very stressful if you're not ready for it and if you haven't tried to at least account for that as well. So just start going through, and whether it's an inventory list that you print out, whether it's something you keep on your phone or whatever, just try to start bucketing cards into different groups, or put that list together of what you want to bring and just have that at the ready, because you'll be able to reference that throughout the show and try and figure out what you want to do with your different cards as opportunities might arise. The other thing I'll add as well on the card front is that if you want to bring, 5 4-row boxes of cards and lug them around, okay,
good luck
around. And space, as we're probably going to talk about, is at a very distinct premium because the Rosemont show, there's just
tight.
Donald Stevens, yeah, exactly. There's no room to spread out like some of the other that we have. Yep. So you are going to be shoulder to shoulder, wall to wall with people. Mm-hmm. If you're dragging a roller bag behind you, people are going to kick that roller bag, like you might trip on it. Whatever the case might be. So just know that what you bring, what you want to take on the show floor, that's going to be your baby for the rest of the day, the rest of the show. So just be mindful of that when you're, I want to bring everything. We all want to bring everything, but at some point you kind of have to draw a line and say that, this probably don't really have a reason to bring this. So from a card perspective, that's kind of my main thing is again, preparation for all this stuff. Start preparing, thinking about what cards you want to bring right now. And then we'll get into a little bit more of the dealer specifics later, but start figuring out asking prices for those cards as well, because there's nothing that's kind of more annoying, forgive me, but to a dealer than if you go up to a dealer table, you pull out a fistful of 20 cards and 15 of them, you're just like, I don't want to move that, or you make me an offer on it. It's like, just have an asking price as a starting point. And that just shows that you're willing to work. So that's a lot on the card side. Again, if y'all have any thoughts or viewpoints,
Justin,
Ben.
yeah, I think the big thing I take away there, like I mentioned, I just started creating the YouTube content tonight for the same type of stuff, like this preparing for the national vibe. And the thing I take away from yours is just like preparation, right? Like if you've never been, you can't really grasp what this is like, right? We thought, you mentioned earlier, Justin, it's going to be big. This year will be even bigger, right? The market exploded, and I realize it's cooled down recently, but the market is still, there's a lot more attention on it. There's a lot more people. We expect that this is going to be pretty busy. And I've mentioned, I've been to 10 in a row, and you walk in and like you said, you just can't, every time it's like, whoa. I mean, you're talking 500,000 continuous square feet. This is the sports card mecca. This is, everything it's hyped up to be. But yeah, just the little points, the things that you wouldn't think about, that like you bring a 2-row box of cards. How are you going to carry those around the show for a week? Right? That you're talking about carrying a heavy box on concrete. Do you have comfortable shoes? Right? Because if you're carrying a heavy box on concrete for multiple days in tight crowds, you're not going to like yourself day 2 or day 3. And there's not a lot of options to change, right? I typically carry a rolling Zion case. You mentioned Rosemont is the tightest venue there is. You're rolling this big, heavy thing around and you got to pick it up and get it through people. These are the tightest aisles. This isn't the IX Center where you've got 5-6 bodies wide. This is, we're talking 2 by 2 here. You're going to get right through these tight crowds. So yeah, I think that's the big thing, is start preparing. We've got a motto in the shop right now since we're setting up. It's, what did you do today to prepare for the national? Right? Because this time is going to pass very, very quickly, and you're going to get there and realize you're not as prepared as you think you are. And that is just tough when you get in there and it's as overwhelming as it is, and you're like frozen because you have no idea what to expect.
Yep. And to the point about the crowds as well, for a lot of people, this is going to be their first show back post-COVID, or their first big public activity post-COVID. So if you haven't kind of started to test the fences, so to speak, in terms of like going back out in public and being around people, just be mindful that it's overwhelming any year.
Sure.
Coming off of what we've gone through with the pandemic this past year, obviously people are much more kind of reticent and nervous about hopping back into like giant crowds of people, and this is going to be giant crowds of people. There's knock on wood, Illinois is like, there's no caps. We're good. We're full steam ahead. So it's going to be the only cap that could possibly be put on is if they like a fire marshal cap, because it's just exceeded capacity. But for that to happen, I mean, there have to be tens of thousands of people in this room at one time. So it's going to be a ton of people. It's going to be a shock to the system from that sense as well. So I would just something to be mindful of, that, when the crowds start to build, like it's going to happen, and just, be prepared for that, or be cognizant of that as something that will take place during the course of the week. So, cards was kind of the first bucket I had. The second bucket was the cash. So, cash there's different ways to pay for stuff, as we all know. Cash will always be king at the national. If somebody turns you down when you're trying to pay cash, I got nothing for that. You will be able to negotiate the best deals with cash. Cash is always going to be king. With that being said, you have to determine kind of your comfort zone or your risk tolerance of how much do you want to have on you at the show, because similar to what we talked about with cards, if you have that cash, it is going to be on your person and you're going to be responsible for it. So not only how much do you want to have at the show, but also how much do you want to bring, whether you're driving, whether you're flying. Flying with a lot of cash can, that you might get yanked at TSA. It's not a big deal, but they might ask you questions. So again, it's all just kind of about risk tolerance. There's several banks in the area. There's a Wells Fargo, the Bank of America, Fifth Third, Chase, all within like a 10-15 minute Uber. So if you want to make arrangements to get cash, so you're not traveling with cash, you can do that. But again, it's just another preparation point of like, if that's something you want to do, you have to budget time to do that, because getting to the Donald Stevens, going to a bank 15 to 20 minutes to get the cash at the bank, 15 to 20 minutes to come back. I mean, that's an hour of your day right there. So it's just this kind of little stuff that builds and adds up. There will certainly be people that take PayPal, Venmo, Cash App. But again, you're not going to get as good a pricing if you're looking to straight out buy. Everybody's trying to mind their P's and Q's with PayPal right now, as they always are with the transactions and the dollar amount level. And obviously with Venmo's super convenient, but I think the Venmo cap is $2,000 a day. So that can add up really quickly, and you can basically lock yourself out if your sole source of payment is Venmo, but you hit your cap in the first hour. And then the third component obviously is going to be crypto. I mean, that's still something that's a pretty nascent development. I don't think that that's going to be anything that's widely accepted, but I'm sure that you'll see signs for people that do accept crypto and are willing to negotiate based on that. So the main point with the cash is that just if you're going to bring cash, you have to be comfortable with the amount of cash that you're going to bring, because again, you're responsible for that cash, and it can be nerve-wracking to carry around a ton of cash in a room filled with strangers, and you're constantly just kind of bumping into them, bumping around them. The point I'll make about cash, and again, as a grizzled seasoned veteran like Ryan is, I don't know how many times I talk to people that they're like, I blew all of my money in the first hour of the first day.
Yeah, and that, Justin, that was exactly what I was going to hit on. I think that's the best advice. I take it so much like what you said about the PC cards. Bring what you're willing to not go home with.
Yep. Yeah, treat it like a casino, exactly. And it's not hopefully you're not losing it. But I don't know how many people I've talked to. They set foot on the showroom floor. Every single case is filled to the brim with cards. There's no gaps. Nobody's touched anything, and they just start buying, and then 60 minutes later, they're like, "Oh my God, I'm at 5% of my remaining budget for the weekend," and it just puts you in a terrible position for the rest of the show. If you need to find cash, then you just start looking for ways to get cash. Maybe you sell your trade bait at 50 cents on the dollar or whatever, just to make some quick recoups. You start negotiating or bargaining with yourself on certain PC cards of well, damn, I need money, so I'll just sell these at 80% or 80 cents on the dollar, 75 cents on the dollar to get back in the game. And you're just it's almost like death by a thousand cuts of you trying to get back in the swing of things, but you're having to make bargains and sacrifices with yourself just because you were so overwhelmed at the beginning that you went all out.
And even if you spend all your cash up front, I think it also goes back to that point of preparation, right? Because if you're anticipating hey, you've got a 2-row box of stuff now that you're hey, this is stuff I don't care about, and you'd rather have cash for the national, your best bet is likely to sell that stuff now and start that process. Yep. Because a lot of people are saving money for this show. We talk about it, it's massive. So if you're anticipating taking this 2-row box to Chicago to sell it, you're going to run into that same problem. You're hey, I'm not bringing a lot of cash. I'll just go there and sell it. Well, what happens when you're asking 80% and no dealer is willing to pay you 75% on your $25 to $200 cards that aren't going to be as liquid at the show? They spent a lot of money to set up, and they're trying to buy too, but they're not going to want to pay you. They may not want to pay you 80%. So you're going to run into that same boat if you're not starting this preparation now to be hey, I'm going to move these, or you just have to be willing to say, whatever I get's whatever I get.
Yep. And don't get me wrong, there are exceptions too. The whole point of going to the national is finding the thing that you've been looking for 2, 5, 10, 20 years, whatever the case might be. This is your best chance to find the thing that you didn't think existed. So if you see that thing that you've been looking for forever, it is a true, white whale cornerstone item for your personal collection, grab it, do it. That's the reason you came. If you walk in and you see a legitimate steal that that you can buy this and it might be a good chunk of your cash, but you can easily recoup that cash later in the show. And I mean, easily, I'm not talking about stretching anything. This is, you buy it here for 100, it sells for 500 on eBay all day, and you can sell it for 350 and just make 250%. Do it. That's great. That's also the reason that we go to the show, is to find flips and make money, cover expenses, things like that. But again, in most cases, when you walk in there, the main thing is to just have some restraint. just try and keep the cash in the bag or the pocket or whatever. Because if you start throwing it out, you're going to find stuff to buy, and it's going to go south pretty quickly. So that's the second bucket with cash. And then the other bucket is the non-card. So this is, I reposted Ryan's story the other day of just a good checklist of things to bring. And again, this is just further preparation to enhance your overall show experience, because we'll start with snacks and drinks. The food in Rosemont is awful. Awful. And I mean, I'm not even talking like bad ballpark food. Like, it's just straight up butt. So if you want to bring, snacks to hold you over, and again, the inside of the show is a time warp. Again, it's like a casino. You go in and you just lose all concept of time and space. And then before you know it, you're getting the 15-minute end of the day announcement to get the hell out. So you'll be stuck in there and you'll just completely lose track of time. But like the stale nachos or ice cream or whatever, like that gets old really quickly. So if you can either bring snacks if you're driving, or like there's a Walmart and Target about 15 minutes away to go pick up provisions like that, shout out Lane, bring a refillable water bottle. Again, it's just easy stuff like that if you can just refill a water bottle and not pay $3 to $4 for a bottled water every time you want something, you're going to save. That stuff starts to add up.
And Justin, real quick before you move on, I think that's an important point though, because like you talked about this earlier with the money, right? So you get to 2:00 and you're like, oh crap, it's lunch. Like, I'm kind of hungry. I could probably wait till dinner. Your only options at that point are either, hey, get in an Uber, go get something, right? Go across the street and hope there's not a wait. There's typically a wait. There's a little steakhouse restaurant right across the street that does a good lunch. There's probably going to be a wait there, knowing the crowd, right? So then you got to get in an Uber. You got to go find food, go to Walmart, go to Target, right? If you're just not prepared for that, you had 15 minutes here, 15 minutes here, 15 minutes here, and you wasted a whole hour to eat a granola bar.
Yep.
That 5 minutes of time right now could save you that whole hour at the time later. Like, that hour at that show is going to be key. That little preparation now would save you from having to eat stale pizza or having to find an alternative where you have to walk 15 minutes to your hotel and to get something there. Just like little things like that, that speaks so much to how important this is to prepare.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, completely agree. Another thing that I had on the other list. So the national website, NSCCshow.com, kudos to them, because it used to be awful. They have made a lot of improvements to bring it into, we'll call it the 20th century, maybe not, maybe the 21st, but it's much better than what it used to be. So one of the key things or key piece of information on there is you can go on there and see a list of all of the dealer names and the dealer booth numbers. So for example, I'm booth 478. So you can go on there, you'll see Justin 610 Sports Cards, booth 478, and then there's a floor plan schematic of the entire show. So you can start to kind of map out your journey and just say, I've talked to Card Collector 2 on Instagram before, or like I've joined his breaks. I want to go say hi. You're at Ryan. What booth are you at?
I'm set up with somebody else. It's not my booth.
Oh, okay. Oh, God.
Let me figure out my numbers.
I'm not even prepared for this show. Come on.
I know. I think it's 435. I think.
Oh,
Glad
okay.
you asked.
But yeah, it's basically just one of those things. Like you can start to get a sense of the show before the show even starts by like knowing where certain people are. And again, that will help you just kind of build an orientation, so to speak, of things to look out for, people that you want to see, and you'll start to build familiarity with the show floor before you actually get in there. So I would say that like a list of dealer booth numbers, not only that you'd like to catch up with or find before you go into the show, but then this one also always cracks me up. If you see a booth of a dealer in the show and you're like, oh, that guy has great stuff, I'm going to come back to this booth, write down the damn booth number. Like, don't be like, oh, okay, it's 3 rows back from PWCC, it's 5 rows to the right of the bathroom. Like, you're not going to find it again. Every booth has a booth number. All the dealers will likely know their booth numbers. And it's also, there's a small placard on the bottom of the dealer tables, and there should be a booth number on there as well. So if you find somebody that like a dealer that you just enjoyed talking with, they had great inventory, or just, maybe just a meeting place for you and your friends, like get that booth number from that dealer before you leave, because you'll have a bear of a time trying to find it again if you're trying to use like the North Star or something like that. Okay, so I think the other one, the big one for me, is card supplies themselves. So I can't stress this enough. I think every national I've been to, there's been 2 booths, maybe 3, but I can specifically remember 2 guys that are setting up a booth to sell supplies. Those supplies are expensive. They are hard to access because, again, if you're on the other side of the show and you just found some nice stuff in a $1 box and you're like, oh man, I need to go buy some top loaders real quick, it's 15 minutes to 20 minutes to go find the top loader guy. So again, just if you can before time, grab a few different packets of, penny sleeves, some different size top loaders, maybe some of those clamshell cases if you're just like buying in bulk, going looking through boxes, some one touches, stuff like that. And again, it's just little things that are going to make the show so much smoother for you when you don't have to think about trying to take care of something that you could have taken care of ahead of time.
And keep in mind, supplies aren't easy to find right now. You're going to also pay 3 or 4x what you were paying before. So when you go through a $1 box and you find $25 cards that aren't sleeved or top loaded, to sleeve and top load those cards now is likely $10 or $12. So you're not only are you paying $25 for the card, you're eating, you're adding 50 cents to every single card you bought just to put it in a holder, right? No. So I'm a big proponent of the 100 count, the 2-piece 100 count Ultra Pro cases. Like you can put 100 cards in there, and it's we sell them I think for like $2.99, and that'll hold everything you need until you can get back to your supplies if you're not able to bring fresh packs of top loaders or things like that. But yeah, that's the big thing. Is I said this on the YouTube video I created earlier is, okay, what's the good alternative here? They've got top loaders readily available at $3 and sleeves at $1. Every single person in there is going to be a breaker or a card store. They're going to buy all of them. So by the time that they become available to you, they're all going to be gone. So they're not going to be relatively cheap, inexpensive top loaders. These are going to be probably pretty expensive. If you're going to go in there, expect to pay a premium if you don't have those things ahead of time.
Yep. And again, that premium just further works against you when you're trying to manage your cash flow and your budget. So that's a great point as well. I think the other things we've kind of touched on them a little bit, and they were part of the list. But the portable chargers, as Ryan pointed out in his list, I have these Anchor, just kind of cigar looking things. Yep. One of these is like 4 or 5 years old, and it's still, knock on wood, works like a charm. So I think these are like $20, $30 on Amazon, and I can't stress enough just how quickly iPhone batteries will die in that convention center, because everybody will be on the cell networks. Everybody will be on the Wi-Fi. And it gets to the point where the battery that you've got your phone plugged into isn't actually charging your phone. It's just kind of like level setting your phone because it's taking so much juice and power to like try and break through the cell service to look up your eBay search or whatever. So portable phone chargers are always clutch. As Ryan pointed out, a comfortable backpack that you can put everything in, because that thing's going to be on your back for a very, very long time. And that floor gets very hard very quickly. So a good backpack, a charged iPad or laptop, if that's something you feel you need to bring. Comfortable shoes that have been broken in. Don't buy some fly new Jordans the week before and then start walking around 5 days in the National in those. You'll really hate yourself. And then just my plea for personal hygiene. Deodorant, brush your teeth, take a shower. I know it sounds dumb. I know it sounds simple. And I had people DM me on Instagram when I posted that, and they're like, I've never had that happen. Well, good for you, because when it does happen, it is something awful. So again, let's just all make sure that we try and like eat a salad once this week, brush your teeth, take showers and all that good stuff. That's one of the few things that's free. So take advantage of all those hotel amenities, and you'll be on top of your game, and everybody else will thank you. So
maybe a package of mints, and it can be a snack too.
Yeah, exactly. 2, 3, 9 birds with one stone. It's great. So yeah, those are kind of the big buckets for me of just like first time tips or advice, or kind of the what to bring in general of your cards, your cash, and your other. And And again, the more that you can start making those lists now, preparing now, ordering stuff off Amazon, whatever you feel like you got to do, the better your show is going to be once you finally get on the showroom floor. So again, I talked a lot, and again, Ryan, I know you've been to a bunch of these things, and Chris, you've been to some of the newer ones, which I definitely have not. I've only been to the show in the Dells. So if there's anything I missed, or I'm sure I did, but yeah, feel free to set me straight.
Yeah, I'll chime in one thing, but very well done, gentlemen. This is I'll tip my hat to Josh, Cardboard Chronicles, on this one, because he does this, and I just think it's a good idea, but don't have the discipline or the wherewithal to do it myself. Make plans to see friends and schedule things in advance, particularly with respect to after the show activities like a dinner, a get-together, things like that. It'll alleviate a lot of anxiety, and then you'll make sure that you're going to see some of the people you want to see, and you have plans set. And if you're not a great planner like myself, then just befriend one and let him do the planning. You just show up when you're supposed to be there.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because I was watching your guys' video when he was mentioning that, and I was like, oh no, that's another thing to add to the list of anxieties that I was like, oh, I haven't even thought about that. So I mean, along those same lines, Chris, being a Chicago, local, and Ryan and Justin, I'm sure you guys have some perspectives from being there before, but where are some good places, whether you're, trying to meet up with some folks to get a drink, or you want to go out for dinner, or you want to try the best pizza in town? What are some suggestions?
I'm going to stand out of the way and let Justin and Ryan answer that one, because I'm not intimately familiar with the Rosemont area. But I will say no, it's not one of my haunts, but Giordano's and Lou Malnati's are two of the mainstream pizza chains that have their origins in Chicago, that if you haven't had those before, having them for the first time in Chicago is kind of cool.
Yeah, I agree. That's good stuff. And I guess in terms of things to do, not to go on the more informal side, but I think one of the things that I've always been very impressed, excited with, slightly intimidated by, are the number of informal trade nights that have just popped up in all of these hotel lobbies at every single damn show that's happened since we started going to shows again. I cannot imagine how upset hotel staff and personnel are going to be with the National Week. But again, I think the most important thing that you can do at a national, whether it's first time, fifth time, or 50th time, just meet people, man. Just meet as many people as possible. Have those Instagram or Facebook Messenger conversations that you would normally have, posting your 90th Ben Simmons meme, or, making fun of, I don't know, whatever it is that we make fun of online. Do that in person. Because the lasting impact of making those friendships, meeting those people, building those relationships, not only will it help you during the course of the show, but it'll be instrumental going forward. The whole way or main way that I met Josh is that we had talked a little bit online, and then at the 2018 Cleveland show, he was like, "Hey, I'm Josh. Can I put my book bag at your booth?" And I was like, "All right, who is this son of a?" They're going to drop his stuff off in my booth. I don't even know him. But that's basically how it started. We just met each other in person, and from there I talked to him pretty much every day. So take those opportunities. After the show is over, hop on Instagram or message a couple people that that are at the show and be like, "Hey, have you heard anything about guys getting together at a hotel?" Because right within the immediate surrounding area, there's the Hyatt. There is the DoubleTree. There's a Holiday Inn property of some sort, or the Crown Plaza, excuse me. And I think there's also a Hilton. Yeah, there you go. A Hilton that's tucked back a little bit more. So I can guarantee you those lobbies, those ballrooms after hours are just going to be overrun with people, kicking it, looking at cards or whatever. And it's also that informal environment is much better for there's not like the same intimidation factor of like you dealing with a dealer. Like there's not a physical separation of a table and cases when you're having those interactions. So it's a much more informal process, an informal setting. It's a great way to meet people. It's a great way to pick up new cards. It's going to be happening everywhere. Just step out of your comfort zone. That's another one of my kind of old man pieces of advice for the National, for anybody, is just that if you're maybe not the biggest social butterfly in the world, just try and at least one night get out and extend yourself a little bit and meet the folks that you know online, meet them in person. You will not regret it.
Yeah, I think that's great advice, right? If I think about the last 10 years I've been able to go, I can assure you I remember a lot more the people I've met and the memories I've made than the cards I've picked up. Right? Yep. I can tell you a lot more about who I met at the last National than the cards I bought. So you talk with these other collectors on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, right? A lot of us, this is what we do, all the time. We're always creating content. We're always interacting. We talk to so many people it's consistent, right? We have the full conversations. It's nice to be able to put your name to your, name to face. So yeah, that's great advice. And I can't recommend it enough. Right. And I think the big thing, Justin, about the trade nights that's nice is, like you said, it's a lot more informal. You don't feel that pressure.
Yep.
A dealer's spending thousands of dollars to set up. And I feel like, especially when I was younger, I felt that kind of like pressure that like I had to almost lose to complete a deal because of the money they had to spend up front to be there. The trade night, and I'm not saying that's the case for everybody, because there's certainly plenty of dealers who are fair and approachable, and it's a great time. But the trade night makes it a whole lot different, right? We had a trade night at our shop, and there's a little video on a little clip on our YouTube video where I told a little kid, it's kind of like speed dating, right? Everybody's here for the same reasons. Yep. You didn't come to this to not trade or not to hang out, not to talk. Be willing to put yourself out there, and I think you'll get a lot more in return than you might expect.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Along the lines of the trade night, Ryan, I know in the prior years you and Jimmy have done like a more formal trade night. Are you guys doing something this year?
So we're talking about it, right? Like it's been a conversation we've been working on. The advantages in the years past was we had a lot more time to prepare, right? We really didn't have until June 1st, June 2nd to really start being like, okay, this is something we're gonna, work on and plan. We have a call tomorrow to kind of. I can't get too much into it, but I'm working on it. Jimmy and I have had a lot of conversation about it. So if it can happen, if we can make it happen, 100%, that's the plan. I guess we're waiting on a couple things to see if they fall in place.
We'll stay tuned.
So hopefully I'll have something positive and, something to announce here soon. So we'll see.
Justin, sorry, I cut you off. What were you about to say?
No, you're good. I guess I was looking at, because I'm terrible with restaurants. Like I get the same Uber Eats stuff pretty much every night. I do the thing that I'm telling everybody else not to do, because I just like to come out of the convention center and go back and decompress. But in terms of food options, it looks like, so Gibson's is right across the street. That's the place that Ryan alluded to earlier. It's a great steakhouse. They have a great lunch. You can get you'll see everybody talking about the sliders, which that gets old. So we got Best Pizzas Rossetti's down the street from the convention. You got Gino's East. Maria's has good Mexican down the street. Paradise Pup has the best burgers. What else do we got? Fogo de Chao. Oh God, no, thank you on the meats on a stick. But again, the whole point of this kind of Rosemont Convention Center space is for conventions of all shapes and sizes, not just one as big as the National, to be able to set up shop there for a long weekend, a full week, and everything is self-contained. So there's going to be all kinds of different restaurants and bars and options within a walking distance or a short Uber. So if you, like Chris said, find a planner friend, latch onto that friend. Pressure them to make the decisions, and then that way, when you all go back to like the same booth at 6 p.m. when the show closes, and everybody's kind of looking around like, all right, what are we doing? There's at least one person who's like, well, I got a reservation, or we're going to go grab a drink. So
that's Justin, that's what I was going to say, right? Like if there's somewhere you're like, I've got to eat here and they take reservations, these are conversations we should be starting now. There's going to be a lot of people here. And if you're like, hey, I want to go to, Giordano's to eat, there's a good chance at, 7:00 on a Thursday, there's nowhere to sit. You're not getting in there for 2 hours. If you're like, hey, we got to go somewhere, find your planner friend, let them know where you want to eat and start planning that now. Just, you don't want to get there and say you want to do something and then not be able to do it because everybody else wanted to do the same thing. They were just more prepared.
Yep. Agreed. And somebody mentioned a good one in the chat as well, that I didn't touch on, but the discussion of kind of which badge to buy or which pass to buy. So if you go to the NSCC show website, there are many different options for badges, but I guess if you want to really simplify that, there's two primary options. There's a general admission, and then there's various different tiers of VIP. The different tiers of VIP will get you, basically different number of autograph tickets for different people. To me, that stuff really doesn't matter. The important thing, and why I would recommend everybody buy just the base level VIP package, is the VIP package allows you to get on the show floor 30 minutes earlier than everybody else every single day. So the hours for the public hours for the show are 4 to 8 on Wednesday, 10 to 6 Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then 10 to 5 on Sunday. When you get that VIP badge, that allows you to enter the showroom floor at 9:30 instead of 10. And it might only sound like an extra 30 minutes, but as we've talked about this whole time, like, prioritization is key. Being able to prioritize certain things and find those things before everybody, the rest of the population, gets on the floor, that can be big. And again, what's also big is that just having that 30 minutes to kind of get in there, get your bearings, take a breath, start to walk around, start to see how things are working.
The most peaceful part of the day.
Exactly. That cannot, the importance of that 30 minutes of Zen cannot be understated, because as soon as the door opens at 10 a.m., you will see people literally running to the Panini booth, to autograph.
Pops.
Yeah. Oh God. We'll get into that later, I'm sure. To PSA, to BGS, to SGC, to autograph signers, whatever. And there's just all of those different moments of like organized and unorganized chaos throughout the day. But like clockwork, every single morning at 10 a.m., there's people immediately running across the showroom floor. So like just 30 minutes allows you to get away from that. Enjoy the show at your own pace, even if it's for 30 minutes. And then you can kind of be prepared for when general admission rolls in at 10. So I think the VIP pass is, don't quote me on this, but it's like $159 for the
$139 okay. For the VIP and $199 for the super VIP. But I did see, Justin, the other day the National said there's like 55 passes for super VIP left. So I would assume those are going to be limited, right? Yeah. So I would assume those are going to be quick. But your point about the Zen, right? Like the 30 minutes, that's so true, because what I think we also miss in this is like, you and I can speak a lot more to it, that like these lines have been big in years past. Yeah. We can only assume they're going to be longer, right? So like when you want to have, if Panini does the redemption replacement, or they do the wrapper redemption, or Beckett does RCR, right? Like a lot of, especially the stuff at Panini, a lot of those are at very specific times, right? So Panini doesn't do the wrapper redemption all day long. It's not, 10 to 6 every day. It's, 11:30 to 12:30 or 1:30 to 4, or like there's time blocks. So if it is going to be at 10:30, a lot of people that get into 9:30 are like, okay, Panini's doing this here, Beckett's doing this here, right? Where do you want to start? And then you go and get in line, and then you've beaten all of the general admission. Because I think that's important if you think about this, right? That 30 minutes can give you a head start on something else. Because if you're going to do, if you only got, I always say this, if you've only got 1 or 2 days, and you've got to be very cognizant of your time. If you've got to do a graded card, Panini wrapper redemption, and an autograph signing, right? If you go in at 10 o'clock at general admission and you're 80th in line at the wrapper redemption, and then you've got to go grade a card and there's 25 people in line, and then you've got to rush over to an autograph signing, it's 1:30 before you know it, and you haven't looked at any cards. You haven't done anything. Yeah. All you've done is waited in line. That 30 minutes could put you at third in Panini's line. So yeah, sure, at 10:30 when it starts, you've had to wait that hour, but then you're on to the rest of your day so much quicker. It's just, you've got to be able to buy that time somewhere. Beating the general admission is oftentimes where you can bake up that time.
Yep. And there will be, regardless of whether you do general or VIP, there will most certainly be a line just to get in the door to the showroom floor before the different tiers open. So if you have a VIP pass and you get first dibs at 9:30, if you get there 30 minutes ahead of time, that's not lost time. That time from 9 to 9:30 is not lost time because the show floor is not open. So if you're waiting in line for 30 minutes, doors open for VIPs at 9:30 and you're in by 9:40, you've lost 10 minutes in theory, but still it's 10 minutes. If you're in the general admission line and you get there 30 minutes early, there's people lined up for damn general admission and that line's longer than VIP at 9 a.m. So if you get to the show at like 9:45 for general admission, that line is going to be long.
And think, right?
Yeah. And there's a good chance
bag checks.
Right. You might not. Yeah, exactly. You might not even get in to the actual show itself until 10:30, 10:45,
Exactly.
God forbid 11. So again, making up time when you can and just understanding how that process works. Because Ryan, you made a great point that all the wrapper stuff and the autographs and the grading, like that's stuff that I just don't really do as a dealer. I'm either just walking around looking at cards or I'm hanging out at the booth. So there's so many different things that go on during the course of the week at very specific times. Like you have to look at this stuff ahead of time and you have to do your best to prepare. And it doesn't have to be perfect. Like if you miss some, it doesn't matter. Like it's not a big deal. But just the more that you can get comfortable with how the week works from kind of logistics, a scheduling perspective, and be able to steal time where you can. Because I think if you do the math, $139 for a VIP ticket versus 19, I think it pre-purchase for general admission. So 19 times 5 is, a number, but you're basically paying like $30 more for 2.5 hours of extra time. Like,
and Justin, the same thing could be said if you're going all week and you're setting up and you're taking a car. The super VIP comes with a parking pass.
Yep.
It's $15 a day. That's $75 in parking off of the $200. That's $125 admission through the entire show because you're going to spend that $75 on parking regardless. You might as well get it for free with your parking pass.
Yep.
You save that money. Now you're at $125 to get in. And the biggest difference is with the super VIP, you get double the free packs or whatever it might come with inside the super VIP package. So in the past, Panini, Topps, Leaf, Upper Deck, they do these like little promotional sets. I'm sure the Panini one will have a Trevor Lawrence rookie, right? Like they're going to be different things. Now you're getting double. So you're saving $15 off the VIP package and getting twice as much as the VIP did because you bought it because you needed a parking pass. Just again, and our advice here isn't for everybody, right? Justin's not doing the wrapper redemption. I have a lot of interest in that. We're both setting up. We're doing very different things. If your goal is just to come and relax and hang out and walk around with your kid, our advice might not, pertain to you as much where you need to get in and rush around with little Timmy. You might just want to, come in and work at your own pace. Just from, our experience and kind of the stuff we're doing, the 30 minutes makes a big difference, but it may not make a difference to everybody.
Yep, absolutely. There's a lot going on. There's a lot going on all week. So if you can just find ways to create time, so to speak, and it's within your budget, that's a no-brainer. Like, don't cut corners on that.
Yep. And I think the biggest thing in my eyes is still, can you create that time now?
Mm-hmm.
That 15 minutes on that snack turns into an hour to go Uber to get food or the bank with the money. Just so many different ways you can save time right now to be prepared as much as you can for that show.
Yep, I agree.
Prepare. Love it. So one of the things that I had seen, I think you guys hit on a little bit, as a question that I got on Instagram before this, is what's the bag policy? And I think they were getting at, like, can we bring bags in, which I think, we've covered that we can. But I think, Justin, you had mentioned the bag check. So, walk us through what are the security measures that we need to know about or prepare for? Do we need, I think we can bring snacks and water in, but is there anything that's prohibited that we can't bring with us?
So I'm not familiar with the bag check, Ryan. Is that something that y'all had to do again? And I've had a dealer badge, so it's for better for worse, dealers can just kind of do whatever the hell they want to.
Yeah. Personally, I've had one, and I've had the same. I have a dealer badge as well, and I've had a lot of the same things where, like, I typically bring a book bag in, and I haven't been checked all the time, but typically when I check, it's just kind of open it up, and I've had drinks, snacks, stuff like that, and it's not typically an issue. I'm not familiar with the we can't bring these in list.
Yeah, no, neither am I. I guess the one thing that I don't know if they're going to try and do anything with, like, this is just me making something up. But again, if you have like a massive suitcase that you're just going to be wheeling around, or like if you are using your entrepreneurial ingenuity spirit to, like, basically bring a wheelbarrow or something, and you're like putting your cards in there and you're trying to make like a rolling dealer booth or something like that, they might put the kibosh on that, because that's kind of ridiculous. God love you for trying. But, you know, in terms of stuff in a book bag, like if it's a check, it seems like it's just a quick check and they let everybody go on their merry way. So I've never heard of them just getting weird with how they look at bags and stuff like that.
Okay, makes sense. Making sure there's no weapons or anything, I'm guessing.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I mean, Chicago's no, you can't even have concealed firearms in Chicago, I believe. I think the whole state no conceal.
Yep. And to that point as well, like I know that theft and security, I mean, it's always on people's mind, but especially this year with a hell of a lot more money on the floor, cards that are worth a lot more than they used to be. The dealers on the dealer email list from NSCC got an email saying that the show is significantly bulking up both, uniformed and plainclothes officers that will be on the floor, along with other private security, just keeping tabs on things. So, I don't know what that means. I don't know what that's in relation to, but I know that the National has said that they're definitely ramping up security. So good for them. Like, I was very happy to see that in an email, because I know a lot of people have concerns about, what's the best way to take care of their cards, what's the best way to take care of cash and stuff like that.
Yeah. So Justin, I've actually heard from dealers as well that are bringing their own security to the show, right? I mean, you mentioned these cards are worth a lot more than they once were, right? We've got multiple, there will be $1 million, 7-figure cards at this show, right? Those aren't just going to be, in plain sight with nobody watching. I would assume there's to be a lot more, presence with, I don't know, law, officers, whatever you want to call it, security. But I would anticipate that, 3-4x what it's ever been before.
Yep. Agreed.
Makes sense. So Chris, I want to get you in here. You've been surprisingly quiet. I know a lot of times it's the opposite. Josh gives you a hard time of not being quiet. So we're in Chicago, and if we aren't looking to do just cards the whole time, I've heard some people in the chat say the casino, there's a lot of fun stuff to do. Are there any things outside of the convention center that we should maybe consider going to see, or catching a baseball game if the Cubs or the White Sox are in town? What suggestions do you have in the Chicago area outside of the convention center while we're there?
Sure. There, I believe, is a Cubs game, maybe 2 Cubs games during that week. That might be a fun outing. I know some guys are planning to do that, I think. Lots of museums, if the family's with you. Christina would be pleased that I mentioned the museums. Chicago has tons of them. I think Google can take care of you from there. And I don't know, man, Chicago's a great city.
It's Lollapalooza weekend too. Like, I know that I think even though this year's lineup's trash, I think I went in 2015 and paid like $500 to see Metallica, and it was the best 3 hours of my life. So if you can get over to Lolla, it is a lot of fun. I mean, it's beautiful in the park. It's right there on the water. It's quite the experience. So yeah, Lollapalooza, if you feel like making the trip into the city, and the casino, there will be casino stories every day, good ones and bad ones, and ones in between. So that's your deal, go for it.
Yeah, the only thing I'd say on that, Jake, is I would, if one's intention was to make a trip to visit Chicago, I wouldn't try to double book it with a visit to the National. I think going to the card show in and of itself is going to be a pretty overwhelming experience that's easily going to demand as many hours out of the day as you're willing to give to it. So I would make plans with that in mind. Maybe even extend the trip into the next week and carve out a couple of days after the show to spend vacationing or doing touristy things, which Chicago has no shortage of. But that's the only thing I would say there is be careful, because you don't want to miss it. You don't want to spend all your time doing things you could have done anytime and miss the show and miss the people and the experience.
That makes sense. Yeah, maybe get there early. Show up on Monday instead of waiting till Wednesday or what have you. So one of the other things that I've been thinking about, and I talked with Brett about this a little bit and his reactions to the Dallas show, but any suggestions that you guys have? We've talked a lot about there's going to be a lot of people, there's going to be a lot of stimulus hitting us from all different directions. Any suggestions on how to try to keep yourself from being too overwhelmed, or if you feel overwhelmed, how to kind of manage that a little bit better?
For me, the main thing, it's just patience. I mean, so I guess speaking as a dealer a little bit, and also as an attendee as well, like it's going to get to the point later in the week where you're going to go up to a dealer booth and there'll be like 20, 30, 50 people standing around, and like you might be trying to ask like for a price or on something, or you're trying to look at a card that you like, and it's just it seems like the dealer's not getting to you. For the most part, dealers are doing their best to like work their way down the row and just handle everybody on the first come first serve basis. But it's very, very difficult. Especially, I mean, it's hard for me to manage 2 showcases, let alone like for Ryan or the RBI crew gang or whoever it is that have like an entire pod to themselves to try and manage all of those people asking all of those questions about all of those cards. So I would say that patience is just kind of the biggest key there. You're going to get frustrated. I get frustrated. I absolutely get it. But if you can just, as long as the dealer is making an effort to get to you, then really that's all that can be done. I will also say, however, that some dealers are just asses. I mean, for lack of a better way to put it,
just there to show off.
Yeah, well, easy. But it's one of those things where if you're in an uncomfortable situation, like you're talking with a dealer, you're trying to work on a trade, he's not giving you the trade value you want, or like you want to buy a card and he's not budging on a price. That the dealer is entitled to price or value their cards as they see fit. And conversely, you're entitled to price your cards and value your cards as you see fit. So if you feel that you are not getting the level of just general respect that you feel you should, pull the ripcord. Just walk away. Be like, look, man, I just don't think there's anything for us right now. I'm going to make a lap and maybe I'll swing back by. It's not worth continuing to bang your head against the wall, trying to square peg round hole a deal. If one party or one side of the trade or the talks is not reciprocating, just like that general level of respect. So if you're not comfortable for whatever reason when you're trying to make a deal with a dealer, just walk away. Honestly, it's okay. It's perfectly fine. You're not going to hurt any feelings if the dealer gets huffy and puffy about it. Like that further validates that you made the right decision.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's a couple of things that just kind of popped in my mind that I kind of have questions about with that. And so one of the things, I think, Ryan, I heard you talk about it with Dallas, and I've seen some of your, show vlogs. But you seem to, like to have a conversation, at least just some pleasantries with the dealer and say, hey, how's the show going or whatever, before even just jumping into, hey, what are your prices on these cards? So any suggestions that you guys have, and Chris, maybe some things that you've done or seen from the couple of shows that you went to earlier this year that are just best practices with how to deal with dealers to just have the best experience possible?
I think dealer etiquette is one of the more under discussed things about a show. Right? It's not only, transferable in card shows or, the Dallas or the National, but also in life, right? You get out of it what you put in. Again, everybody's there for the same thing. They want to sell or buy or trade. You want to do the same thing. It just goes a long way with having a conversation. Again, they don't want to all sit there and just you ask a million questions on all their prices, because that's what I did when I was younger, right? You go up to a table, was shy to say, how much is this? How much is this? How much is this? How much is this? Okay, thanks. And then you leave. Right? You can have a conversation with somebody, even if you don't buy anything, just makes them feel like, I don't know. That's all I would want to be treated. So I enjoy having the conversation, right? It's just, we're not just looking to purchase cardboard. You're looking to make connections as well. And you just never know what that relationship might lead to. I think, like I said, dealer etiquette's a big one. And Justin, Chris, you guys as well. I saw somebody mentioned it in chat, in the group chat earlier, and I actually put it in my YouTube video because I think it's a big point in terms of where the market is at now versus 2 years ago with content creation, right? I think that's a very, very, very good point. I hadn't even thought about, right? And I've got a camera with me when I go to these places. Not everybody wants to be on film. And I think that's a conversation. Like when I try to go up to people, since I am filming when I go to Dallas or some of these bigger shows, like you've got to be aware that the guy behind the table might not want to be on camera, might not want his stuff on camera. Those are, hey, just we're filming, just want to, we're just creating some YouTube content. Do you care? They may tell you no, right? And that's, just respect their privacy on that. Just put the camera down and, look and try to make a deal and be a friend, but just be aware that not every single person at that show wants to be on camera.
Yeah, I can't emphasize that enough. Obviously, the four of us are on camera right now, but some of the on-camera interactions that I've seen from other shows for the sake of content creation are things that I would not be terribly happy with if they just immediately started happening without first asking me. Yeah, like Ryan said, and he's spot on. Like people have different tolerance levels for how they're going to react when you put a camera in their face. So I would say that the main thing is not only ask, hey, we're filming some content, is this cool, but be ready to answer follow-up questions. Like, oh yeah, that's not a problem, but like, what's the goal? What are you trying to shoot? Do you want to interview me? Like, are you just trying to get B-roll of cards and cases for a transition shot, or just you can be as specific or as general as you want. And they should be able to answer those questions. And if they can't answer those questions to your satisfaction, or it's for a purpose that that you're not willing to agree to, then like you're within your right to be like, no, I'd rather not. And again, I think there's different tiers of content creation too. There's obviously, Ryan, I remember when you and I just had a quick chat in an interview in 2019, 2 years ago, and you stopped me and you're like, hey, do you mind if we just chat real quick on camera? Of course I don't care. Of course, it's great. So the things like the stuff that you do and other guys do who are doing this legitimately, that's fantastic. A content creator is not some moron with an Instagram account and an iPhone. So like if you're just jamming a phone like over the top of a crowd, like when a deal is happening and just trying to videotape that, like that unfortunately like breeds other people doing the same thing. And like, it's just not, it's poor form. I know everybody wants to like be able to share the cool deals or the high dollar deals or whatever, but and again, this is old man saying this, but like, that's just not for me. So everybody kind of has their breaking point. Just the main thing again, it's just common courtesy. Just ask. There's going to be probably a few follow-up questions, answer them. And I would say that the vast majority of people will be like, yeah, that's cool. Let's do it.
Yeah. Let me add that, if it isn't already implicit in what was just said, that if you are going to this show, be prepared for the possibility that you will end up on camera without your permission ever being granted. So dress accordingly. I don't know. Prepare for that possibility. And I'm not quite sure what the law is on whether or not video can show your likeness if you're in a semi-public setting or public setting, and to what extent you can control or it influence whether or not that footage comes out. But the flip side of the coin is, as a content creator, you do open yourself to the possibility that somebody might try to file a copyright strike, or somebody might try to get your content removed if they show up on your video and you never solicited their permission. So two sides to that coin. Protect yourself on both sides, and higher than the law, but just as a common courtesy, definitely, like Justin and Ryan were saying, just ask permission. It can only lead to good outcomes. It can never lead to a bad outcome. So ask permission.
It's like that. Appreciate it. So one of the other thoughts that I had seen, I think a Beckett article maybe 3 years ago, with kind of some best practices for the national. One that I thought, kind of set off a light bulb for me is we all, interact online. Some of us don't show our faces online, but a lot of us know each other's handles and screen names and, our online persona. So they were saying, wear a name tag with, maybe your screen name and your real name. And I know, Ryan, I saw that at Trade Night, you had provided sticky badges for people to do that. So any other suggestions like that? I know, like, for some of us, like, Ryan, again, you've got your Card Collector 2 logo on your shirt. I've got some shirts with my logo. Sometimes that can break the ice and make it easier because people might not know who we are, but they might know the logo. But any other suggestions with just, making it easier to get to know people or, stuff like that?
I know for the four of us, Chris is the face of Card Ladder. Jake, you've got the brand. Ryan, you've got the brand, and my brand is just being the tallest person in the room. So, like, the four of us are pretty good. But yeah, I don't hate the name tag thing. I don't really have any other suggestions, at least off the top of my head. But, like, it's a great idea, and it also speaks, though, to how people want to experience the show. Is like, I have talked to guys on, that I've met on, Blowout Cards, Trader Retreat, the old Beckett boards. I've messaged these people for years and years and years just about cards or whatever. And they have told me that, like, yeah, I go to the National, but I just don't introduce myself to anybody. It's like these dudes just travel in anonymity. Because that's how they're comfortable doing it. And, God love them. Like, that's just how some people want to enjoy the show. I've introduced myself to people that, like, the only reason that I knew who they were is because, like, I recognized a Facebook avatar, and they looked at me like I was insane. And, to their credit, they're not wrong. But at the same time, like, they just wanted to hang out and do their own thing and, like, not really engage unless they were the ones initiating the engagement. So, just understand that, there's plenty of people that'll go out of their way to make sure that they know who you are and you know who they are.
Yep.
But there's also a lot of people too that they just are the opposite and just don't want to roll like that. So it's all a matter of personal preference and comfort level with being in a group of people and a social setting like that.
Yeah, I think Justin's point is spot on, right? Like, if you're, if you see somebody you recognize, I'll always recommend, like, if you're having discussion or, talking to these folks on a weekly, monthly basis, right? Like, go up, introduce yourself. I realize some people that might be out of their comfort zone, but you're at the show for a reason, right? You might as well make that connection. You just never know what it could lead to. I'm all for that. If that's not really your style, and I think the name tag's a great idea. I understand not everybody wants to do that. I think it just comes back to how much you, like Justin said, with it, friends that are not willing to put themselves out there. How much do you want to put yourself out there? If you're willing to put yourself out there, you're going to go up to the people you recognize, the people that, you see on camera. You're going to meet those people that you want to meet. And then, if you want to wear a name tag and introduce yourself to other people, you will, right? It's just all going to come down to how comfortable you are with having those discussions, being in a public setting again. Where are you going to be comfortable?
And I think to go back to something that we talked about earlier, the best place to, or the lowest risk, most comfortable places to do that are hotel lobby trade nights. Again, there's going to be, everybody's Instagram story is just going to be lit up with, like, trade night.
Dealing in Hilton.
Exactly. Trade night in the Hyatt lobby, trade night in the DoubleTree lobby. And these posts are going to go on for hours and hours and hours into the morning. So, like, if you ever think that there's something, that nothing's going on, like, you need to try harder, because there's always going to be stuff going on for you to find. And if you're not sure, just start asking your small group of internet friends and be like, hey, what's going on? What's going on tonight? So
feel free to follow our story. I will gladly share some trade nights that are going to happen, because, like Justin said, you run into any hotel within, like, walking distance of the National, after the national, you can assume there's going to be some sort of trade night. One of them might be a little busier than the other, but you can definitely assume that these events are going to be happening on a pretty consistent basis.
Yep.
And shoot, at this point, you might have more room in the hotel lobby than you have at the show.
Oh my God. So true.
So, yeah, I mean, this might be a conversation for next year, but I'm going to be curious to see, you guys have talked about how tight it is in Chicago. I'm really curious to see how it is in AC, because I've heard, it's been a number of years since any show has been in AC, but I heard that AC was the tightest of the 3 in traditional venues. So I'll be curious about that.
I think it's Chicago.
That's interesting. Yeah. Cause Atlantic City, at least the floor plan that they had in 2015, like there was a massive space that was like kind of I feel like the showroom floor was kind of like this weird trapezoid looking thing, but then there was a lot of space off to the side where people could stretch out. Like there wasn't anything in that space. It was just people chilling on the floor. I don't feel like the aisles were tighter. But yeah, Rosemont is just, it's by far the tightest in terms of space. And like I know they put another kind of like wing of dealer booths back. Basically they took where the Breaker Pavilion used to be, and I think either pushed that back or pushed it to a part of the area where the TriStar signers used to be, to add more room for dealer booths. So again, it's just like we talked about, knowing that this is going to be the biggest one that we've ever had. Like they've made more room by basically jamming more people into a finite amount of space. So it'll be busy.
Awesome. So one of the other questions I saw get asked a lot on Instagram is, especially for folks like myself who are new, what kind of stuff can we expect to see? And let me kind of preface it a little bit. Some of those questions were about like wax. And I think we've covered, there will be unopened wax for sale. But maybe you guys can touch on, are we looking at vintage stuff? Are we looking at mostly modern stuff? And then also like singles. I think in a lot of the videos we saw a lot of modern basketball and football, but is there vintage baseball, basketball? Is there 90s? What kind of stuff can we expect to see most? And is there anything that we, if we see it, it might be, the only time we're going to see that type of stuff?
There's a saying that if you can't find it at the National, they probably didn't make it. Right? I think Justin kind of alluded to it earlier, but this show has everything. You'll see game-worn jerseys of Babe Ruth, and you'll see, 1994 Topps Finest basketball in a quarter box. There's anything and everything in between will be at this show. $1 million cards, dime cards, and like I said, everything in between. Wax, sealed cases, vintage, slabs from every company you could think of, right? Everything is the easy answer. There's not a lot I'm not expecting to not see at this show.
How many HGA slabs are we going to see at the show?
I think you're going to see a lot from everybody. I think you're going to see some HGA, some SGC, some CSG, some all sorts of grading at this show.
All those grading company acronyms that are the bane of the card ladder existence for Chris Hoge, they are going to be at the show. So you can curse all those people in person and shake a fist at them.
I will. Justin, you just find out what booth number they are for me, and then I will approach their booths and thank them for making me have to adjust
for making your life a living hell.
10,000 search queries to subtract their grading company. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Even at the Dell show and the Dallas show, I was seeing more and more. A lot of SGC, more SGC than I would have seen at a show before the pandemic, and HGA and CSG and some of these other ones popping up too. So, yeah, be a lot of slabs, a lot of slabs.
It'll be there in all shapes and sizes and forms, and I think Ryan, you hit on something that is always a piece of advice or something I try and keep in mind as well, is that at some point walking the show floor, you're gonna get frustrated because if you're just looking for cards, you're gonna feel like you've seen everything. First of all, you have not, so don't worry about that. But if you start to feel like that, reach out to, you know, a couple other friends and be like, hey, you want to make a lap around the showroom floor? And I can't emphasize enough how awesome it is to like go to the Heritage booth, go to the Golden Auction booth, see those like Ty Cobb game used bats in person, like check out all of those photo matched MJ jerseys that you see in the auction houses that sell for hundreds of thousands of dollars. Go look at that in person. Like that's legitimate sporting history, and it's staring you right in the face behind a piece of glass. So that's a great way to just kind of to go around the show, to reset, to see things that the vast majority of us only conceptualize in online JPEGs. And that gives you, not only is that something new to do, but when you do hop back out into the world of head down staring at showcases, like you have a fresh perspective. You've kind of hit the reset button and you're ready to go again, and things will start to make sense again. So I can't recommend that enough. Just hitting up the Heritage booths, some of the bigger auction houses booths in the middle. The Upper Deck booth is awesome because they have some of the huge pieces of Upper Deck authenticated stuff set out on displays. So
Justin, I heard that's not happening this year.
Really? Oh well.
So wow. I was on Twitter 3 days ago, and I saw a blowout tweet. Again, I don't know how true this is, right? I don't know either way, but I saw a blowout tweet that Upper Deck wouldn't be set up.
Upper Deck wouldn't be set up. Wow.
Blowout tweeted it. That's the only reason I was, halfway intrigued by it. So, but that kind of goes into my point, Justin. You're like, I think that's such great advice about like, check out Heritage. Because part of the preparation I was talking when I created my YouTube content about this was, right, you're like, prepare for this, prepare for that, go see this at Heritage, go see Golden's upcoming auction. But I think what I especially overlooked was, think how different the hobby is than it was 2 years ago. And all of these companies that are now players that weren't players 2 years ago, what are those guys doing? We have no idea, right? So like in the past, we never had to allocate time for what Whatnot's doing or what Loop's doing or what some of these other companies are doing. They might have awesome booths where that might take up more of your time. I think it's kind of important to recognize that there are things that none of us, no matter what, have seen at this national because they've never existed before 2019. So I think it's important to also keep in mind that part of your exploration at this show is stuff nobody could have prepared you for.
Yep. It's a great idea.
Yeah, I didn't even thought about that. And that's, well, Upper Deck might not be set up. That hadn't heard of that either, but I'm seeing the chat. Some people are saying that they've seen that also.
Folks saw the same thing in the chat. So that's wild.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but you mentioned it earlier with COVID, right? This is a lot of people. This is their first show. I would assume this is Panini's first show since COVID, right? This is like, is Panini going to do the silver packs? Do they do the Rapper Redemption? Does Topps do Box Wars, right? Like, where are some, because some companies are going to be, all hands on deck. Normal, this is a big week, we're going to do everything, and then some are going to be like, hey, we're going to pull back, may not set up, may not do this. So I think it'll be curious to see in the next couple of weeks who's doing what, because I have, if Upper Deck's not setting up, who knows who might not be there or might not be at, full participation for the week.
Yeah, it's a great point.
Yeah. So one of the things we were starting to hit on earlier in a couple of facets is the grading companies. So I think, and guys, keep me honest, you guys probably know more than I do. I think I saw that PSA and BGS said that they're going to be setting up. And I think I heard that PSA is going to be accepting orders that are going to be expedited at the show. But what do we know about what is going to be there for a grading presence? What can we expect? I mean, I've seen PSA's done custom cards for people in the past. What do you guys know from the grading companies?
I can kind of speak to the past. I did some Googling earlier in the week just to try and figure out if like pricing sheets have been released or if there's been anything about like what the different service tiers are going to be, stuff like that. I didn't have a lot of luck. So if y'all have any more information about present day, please feel free to chime in. But I mean, the grading process in the past it's a disaster. I mean,
madness.
I don't know how else to say it. Yeah, exactly. So the way that this works, and not to get too deep into this, but like I said, dealers can set up their booths with early access on Tuesday. BGS and PSA are not open for business, at least as far as I know, until when the show opens to the general public on Wednesday afternoon. Do not mistake that for thinking that they are not accepting card submissions from people that are
Dealers.
the top tier customers, also known as dealers. PSA has not graded any new cards at the lower levels in 5 months. Beckett has not done that in 2 or 3 months, whatever it is. There are going to be dealers with backlogs of their own inventory, of their customers' inventory, of group subs, whatever it might be, that are pushing these cards through and getting them in before the doors even open, getting those cards to their reps before Wednesday. That puts the common man at a distinct disadvantage if you want to come and one of your priorities is to not only grade cards, but to get those graded cards back before you leave the show. Because back in the day, it used to be that if you got in, so I'm just going to talk about Beckett because raw card review was basically whatever.
Huge.
Yeah, that's what everybody did. It was basically a money tree. So you could put in hundreds of cards for Beckett raw card review, and what that is, it's just the card saver one with like a sticker label, 9, 5, 9, 10, whatever. You could put that through I think it started out at like $12 a card, and you could put that in. And you could put it, if you got there on Wednesday, you could put it in and they would get those back to you Friday by noon. So if you got there by Thursday, they'd be like, we'll try and get these back to you Saturday before close. And then by Friday afternoon, it was like clockwork. It was raw card review was always cut off unless you wanted to do like the $100 per card expedited service.
Front of the line.
Exact front of the line. There you go. Thank you. Because they were so packed with so many people that had put through so many cards. So people that would come to the show on Friday and their top priority was to push stuff through raw card review were basically told, we'll accept the cards and we'll grade them, but you're not getting them back before you leave on Sunday. So that's kind of how the demand fluctuations have worked in prior years. I see no reason why it wouldn't be the same this year, except the main difference is going to be that, the grading companies would increase the raw card review prices during the course of the week to match demand. I mean, the starting point for these cards, I mean, Ryan or Chris or Jake, have you heard anything about what the rumored like raw card review price is going to be? I have to think it starts at minimum like $25 a card.
That's probably pretty accurate.
And then it'll be up to 50. It'll be up to 50 by Thursday. And I mean, I would assume that before they cut off raw card review, just because they're overwhelmed, it'll be like, I mean, I can't see them doing 100 for raw card review, but maybe 75 and then like 250, 300 for front of the line, like return service in an hour. When I think the most I ever heard or paid was 100 for a card, 150. So it's going to be the same situation, except more demand this year than prior years, given the stoppages over the past several months at higher prices. So that's always one of the main things for me. And hand up, I'm not a big grader, but I always like to tell people who have the top priority of grading to temper your expectations and like just understand that you might do everything that you need to do to get ready and prepare, but if it's just a matter of timing, like it sucks, but like that's how it's worked every year before, and it's how it's probably going to work this year.
Yeah, so typically in the past, I've done a lot of like RCR group submissions. So like Beckett would announce the price, because in the past, like I was going through old YouTube videos preparing for my new ones, and I remember quoting like it was $10 a card, $12 if it was autoed through Beckett, right? So I get there Tuesday afternoon with a dealer, you submit it Tuesday night as soon as they open, you're paying $10, $12, you're getting them back Thursday. You could submit through that group submitter and save yourself the time so that when you showed up Friday, that was always my argument. Send it to me, right? I'll charge you $2 extra a card. You show up on Friday and your cards are ready to go. Not sure that'll be the case this year. It's likely, like you said, Justin, likely more expensive. I've not heard anything about pricing. I even talked in that video about how I graded a Michael Jordan through PSA same day turnaround as a PSA 7 for $60. So I would love for PSA to be able to offer those prices again. Not super optimistic that'll happen with demand the way it is. But yeah, I expect it to be like, I expect there to be grading, But to Justin's point, these companies haven't offered a ton of grading options in recent memory, and they're just starting to get picked up and caught up on what I would assume, at least with PSA. I just can't imagine it would be a ton of cards, and at super cheap options, I would imagine the options will be limited, and for more expensive cards, I'm going to assume a couple $100 to have something slabbed and back in a end of show type format.
Yeah, I agree. And with all of that being said, like, if you want to grade, like, do the legwork, like do the pre-prep, do the work now, so you're ready to go. You've crossed all your T's and dotted all of your lowercase J's, and you can hand over whatever you want to hand over as soon as you make your way to the hopefully the front of the line, and they can take your stuff. So don't let the fact that they're going to be slammed like dissuade you from doing what you need to do to prepare. If this is the thing that you want to do, it's a priority.
Exactly. And that's what I would say is, if it is a priority for you, it's likely going to rank higher on this is where you should start list, because Rapper Redemption, if Panini offers it, likely happens multiple days, right? Redemption Replacement likely happens multiple days. The only thing you might run into is if you have an autograph signer at that specific time, but the longer you wait on grading, the more it costs you, and the less likely it is you'll have it back when you would want it back. So grading typically would rank higher in the list if you're looking for turnaround by the end of the show sooner rather than later at a more reasonable price.
Yep. I agree. If your priority is grading and you only have a set window, I mean, if I do everything in your power to get there Wednesday and leave like Friday night instead of just like making the weekend. Like if your big thing is you want to grade, then like do everything that you can, work, personal life or other, just to try and be there during those weekdays and not the weekend. Because again, there's a great chance that by the weekend, it's just, you're not getting anything back end of show unless you're paying hundreds of dollars a card.
Like that. Yeah, and that was actually one of the questions I was going to ask that you hit on perfectly there, Justin, is somebody was asking, I'm only going for 2 days, which 2 days should I go? Should I do the Saturday, Sunday? Should I do the Wednesday, Thursday? So I think that covers it. It depends on what you're looking to do, but getting there during the week might be most advantageous.
Yeah, I would say that if just as an attendee, Thursday to Saturday is a good sweet spot. If you can, or maybe take a long weekend and do Friday and Saturday, you're gonna be in the middle of all the action. You're gonna see a lot of stuff. You're gonna be around a lot of people. There's gonna be a lot going on. But again, if you want to kind of maybe pull back and lose the Saturday, then Thursday, Friday is also a great option, because again, I was pretty gobsmacked in 2019 how busy things were just right out of the gate starting Thursday morning, and there's no reason that it's going to be any different this year. So every single day is going to be busy. It's just a matter of like what you want to do. And
Justin, one of the things I talked about a lot when I created it was it goes back to your point about what is your purpose. If you're a dealer, like you said, sooner rather than later.
Yep.
Everything, again, grading gets pushed back, right? First to silver packs, first to autograph, whatever it may be, sooner rather than later. Sneak peek night will be great. There'll be trade nights after. You could get a lot of stuff on Wednesday. So I'm always an advocate for sooner rather than later.
Yep.
If you have a kid and you're not as go as some of the dealers might be, Saturday is typically a great day. When in the past, again, we can only speak to past experience because we don't know what COVID is going to, how it's going to impact this. But Panini's had kids breaks on Saturdays, right? A lot, like just so many more things happen, especially I think that favor the younger crowd on Saturdays. So I would typically say Friday, Saturday, Sunday, make the weekend out of it. But again, it goes back to what are you trying to accomplish? And do you have a little one running around with you?
Yep. Agreed. It's all circumstances based.
Awesome. Well, I want to make sure that, I think we've covered everything, but I want to make sure we all get some sleep, and Chris can put some of the cards I requested into Card Ladder. So before we wrap up, I just want to kind of do go around the circle. And what's like the one thing for you personally that you would suggest people not miss out on? And I know that's circumstantial for individuals, but if it's you being asked, in this case it is, what's the number one thing don't miss out on? So Ryan, let's start with you.
The experience, right? Think about, like, I think perspective is super important in this. A year ago, this didn't happen. We weren't given this opportunity. There was no national. There were no card shows. We were at home with an uncertain future in an uncertain market. Now we're here, and this is a step in the right direction. You get to see people, right? Like, don't miss out on the moment. We talk about this, about making the trip to see people and hang out, right? When you're there and it's overwhelming and you don't get a card you want, or you don't pull the best hit out of a box, or, you're not able to grade, whatever it may be, understand that the alternative of not having the show is a whole lot worse than whatever you're going through at that current moment, outside of major things in life. I just mean, really at the show, but just enjoy it, right? Because a year ago, this didn't happen. So don't let the whole trip pass you by without realizing how awesome it is that we're finally able to be here, because there's nothing in the card space, I believe, like this show. It is the best of the best.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And there's been this very odd, I know Jeremy talked about it a little bit. There's been this very odd undercurrent of like anti-national sentiment of like the Dallas, the other shows are better for buying, selling, and trading or whatever. And like that might be true. I don't know. I've only been to one non-national show in the past 18 months. So that very well might be true. But like the spectacle of the national, it cannot be overstated enough. Like if you need a hobby recharge on the batteries right now, go to the national. I don't care if it's for an hour a day, the whole week, just go and walk around and look at stuff and have conversations, because it is the kind of the backbone of the hobby year. The hobby year every year basically starts and finishes with, I would say, the national. So I can't emphasize enough the importance of just a national experience. In terms of one thing to do, I just meet people, again, even if it's Ryan, if it's myself, if it's Chris, Jake, if it's you, or just other dealers or personalities or friends that you have known or met, in one way or the other, just meet those people in person. Even if it's for 5 minutes, just ships passing type thing. Just know who they are, know that like there's a real person that's behind the computer, and just try and build those relationships as much as you can, because going forward, like that will serve you exponentially, not only with sports card stuff, but just building friendships and relationships as well. So my thing is always too, that I always close with, I don't nearly have the social media Instagram presence of Ryan. So I try, if you have any questions, like just shoot me a DM. I try, and as the national gets closer, I try to be pretty good about getting back to everybody as best as I can. Like I joked a couple years ago with Josh, if you send me a DM that says like, hey bro, I found this card at like booth 436. It's $1,000. Is this a steal? God bless. Like, I'm not going to respond to that. But if you have legitimate questions, I'll try and help out however I can.
You don't give sports card investment advice, Justin, over the DMs?
No, I let the paid professionals take care of that, Chris. You want some references?
No. No. Okay, so here's the thing. I'm a collector first and foremost. I think about the ratio of my time, how much of it is spent buying cards versus doing other things on a daily basis. And maybe like 1% of my time is spent buying cards. And the rest of the time is talking to the community, chatting, watching sports, just living and enjoying the company of great hobbyists. I take that ratio and I apply it to my show experience. A very small part of my time at the show is going to be spent buying a card. Maybe I'll be looking at cards. Maybe I'll be talking to people. I'll definitely be hanging out and connecting and seeing friends, people I've met before, people I haven't met before. Putting a face to an internet name immediately mends many rifts. just by the process of that happening. Like Justin said, seeing there's another human being across from you, and it's not just a name on the computer screen. The point of NSCC is community. The point of it is seeing everybody for the vast majority of us. The point is to recharge the hobby batteries. It's not to find steals and try to, turn it into a stock market, although that's fun. And if people do that and they thrive at it, congratulations, that's great. But the point of it is something more social, more personal. So approach national from that perspective of it's a hobby gathering. It's Ryan called it the Mecca of the sports card industry. I think that's the right phrase. Approach it from that point of view, and I think your expectations will be satisfied.
Awesome. Great way to put a pin on it. So thank you guys. I really, again, appreciate your time. And I know we were trying to keep this 90 minutes. We're a little bit over, but I think we're pretty close. So hopefully, my wife doesn't get too mad, but no, I really appreciate you guys' time and your perspective. It's helped me out a lot. If you're watching this, I hope it's helped you as well. Like Justin said, I mean, we're all available for questions. If you have any, I'm probably going to be the least helpful just because I'm the least experienced, but I'll do my best to help. And yeah, I think we're all hitting on the same thing is, we're there for the experience and to meet people and to see each other and kind of grow those relationships a little bit more. So if you see someone, say, hey, we're like you said, Ryan, it's like speed dating. We're all there for the same reason. Right. So, I know I'm a little bit more shy in large crowds sometimes. So, maybe like you were saying, Justin, I'll try to break out of my shell, while we're all there and push my comfort zone. So, thank you guys. Any parting thoughts before we sign off? Anything we didn't hit on?
I think we're good.
4 weeks.
Everything. 4 weeks. It's going to be here before we know it. It's crazy. All right. You guys hang in there for just a second and we're going to sign off. So have a good night.
Cool. Thanks, Jake.
Thanks, guys.